Wardrobe for the Bass Tour Anglers podcast is provided by Koppel Outfitters. Go have an adventure. Visit them online at www.koppeloutfitters.com and on social media at Koppel Outfitters. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bass Tour Anglers podcast. Our guest today is the 2018 Major League Fishing Rookie of the Year. He's a three-time qualifier for the Major League Fishing Pro Circuit Championship. He's got 2 tour wins. He's active on YouTube, where his channel, Matt Becker Fishing, produces bass fishing content and tournament recaps. And he's the winner of the Major League Fishing Pro Circuit event at Lake Murray in South Carolina. Matt Becker, welcome to the show. Congratulations on a great win.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on. I always love talking fishing, and especially after a good week. And, I actually won the tournament. So, of course, I want to talk about that.
Absolutely. Now, you were a guest on our Tour Talk podcast just a couple of weeks back, and you were getting ready to head to South Carolina. Your comment was, I need to figure out these blue-black herring. I guess you figured them out.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, huh? I figured them out good enough for 1 week anyway. I wouldn't consider myself an expert by any means. I really wasn't positive what was going on that week, but I figured it out just enough and caught just enough fish to take home the W. So that's a good thing.
So you had a Toyota Series win in 2017, but this is a pro circuit win. What does this mean career-wise for you? Does this put you ahead of schedule? Does it put you in another bracket, so to speak? What does this mean for you?
Well, it definitely means a lot for me personally. I really don't care what other people think of me. It was a big personal goal, a big weight off of my shoulders and a big sigh of relief, just to know that I can win and to finally get it done. That was a big weight off of my shoulders. As far as moving forward, I don't think it changes me or changes anything else. It's going to be business as usual. Nothing's going to change there. But it sure is nice to be introduced as a champion now. That sounds good.
Well, absolutely. I would think that when it comes down to sit down with potential sponsors in the future, there's something that goes along with your name. Matt Becker, Pro Tour champion. Certainly makes a big deal, I would think.
For sure. No, that just sounds good too. I just like hearing that.
Well, I mean, if you look at sports talk in general, so often we define the pros in whatever sport they are on whether or not they've ever won that thing,
Yep.
And one thing, you could look at golf, professional fishing. I know a lot of professional bass fishermen who are haunted by still wanting to get that first major pro tour win. And
absolutely
got that and on to the second one now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a true blessing, especially so early in my career. This is only my 4th season. So we're 3.5 years into this bass fishing thing. And, to already have a win is pretty crazy. You look down the list at the standings and see how many really, really good fishermen there are that have never won. And it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Does your global action camera give you the option to change lenses? Mine does. Tacticam's fisheye camera allows me to modify my viewing angle so I can film an extra wide or mini zoom. Tacticam fisheye, because that fish of a lifetime happens once in a lifetime. We're talking to Matt Becker. He is the champion of the Major League Fishing Pro Circuit event at Lake Murray in South Carolina. Matt, so much is made about Lake Murray's herring population. Herring, shad, other bait fish. Is there a big difference between the two? Do they act differently?
They do. They all act a little differently, and they're all a little bit different sized, a little bit different. I'm sure they taste a little bit different to the fish, and it seems like whenever there's blueback herring in a lake, they really, really like to key in on them. I don't know what it is. They must taste better or something. They just absolutely love the blueback herring. And they definitely act a little bit different than your typical, shad, gizzard shad, threadfin shad, something like that. They, that they're normally a little more nomadic and like to spend a lot of their time out over deep open water. They just kind of roam around and swim around out there in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the lake. But this time of year, they come to the bank to spawn, and the bass just follow suit, and it's like a perfect timing for the bass are finishing up spawning, and the herring are coming into the bank and into shallow water to start their spawning process. And those two collide. The bass are looking to feed right after their spawn, and the herring are coming in shallow, and those two collide, and the whole lake blows up. And that's like exactly what happened at Lake Murray. We hit it perfect timing, and those two things were colliding right there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what stage of the bass spawn was Lake Murray in primarily? Were your fish? Sounds like your fish were post spawners mainly. Did you do any sight fishing at all?
I didn't. There was all stages of the spawn going on. There was still a very limited number of pre-spawn bass. There was plenty of fish still spawning, and then there was a lot. Probably the majority of them were post-spawn fish that were sliding out and getting in on those herring. So, I don't know for sure, but I would say every fish I weighed in was a post-spawn fish. Some of the ones I caught were obviously skinny or beat up, red tails, that kind of stuff. They showed obvious signs of just finishing up spawning. But the other ones, they could have spawned, a couple months ago and already healed up and gained some weight back from eating a bunch of herring. But yeah, there was a little bit of everything going on. And after practice, I actually had planned on doing a little bit of sight fishing in the tournament. But the first morning, I got a few bites fishing for some herring fish, and that kind of made me go all in on that. I checked a few bed fish the first day. I had a couple really big ones that were on the bed, but they were gone, and I never looked back and never went to the bank again to look for a bass on the bed.
I was going to say, one of the things that about professional fishing, at least the big tours now, is we are allowed to be in the boat with the pro, and we're allowed to see exactly what's going on. From what I could see, it looked like most of the fish you were catching were off the bank. They were not bank related. They seemed like they were off out in open water. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were fishing on top of? Was there key structure points like points or humps or anything like that?
Yep, absolutely. And, that's probably my favorite way to fish is, I like to be off the bank, but I like to fish shallow. And there was a perfect storm there because I was fishing some points and some shoals and things like that, where it was probably less than 3 foot of water everywhere that I caught a bass. And it was off the bank. You didn't have to make a perfect, accurate cast to get your bait presented right. You didn't have to worry about branches hanging over or anything like that, because honestly, I'm not the best caster out there. So if I had to put the bait into really tight places, I'd have been struggling a little bit. So fishing off the bank, getting away from that cover that you have to make tight cast in, that is key for me. And then, of course, I love fishing shallow because generally the fish are more aggressive. It's a reaction strike because you're just bringing it over their head and they see it real well. So yeah, I was fishing probably anywhere from 6 inches to 3 feet, 4 feet out on these points. And, some of them would be out in the middle of the lake. Some of those long tapering points, go out a couple 100 yards out off of the actual shoreline.
Okay. Now, also from the live broadcast, it looked like you were kind of, I don't know if the word is recycling, but going back and fishing some of the same areas. And I say this because my wife was watching with me for a few minutes, and there was one particular point that had this absolutely spectacular mansion on it. And every time it would come up, she'd go like, wow, we got to move to South Carolina.
Yeah, no, there is some amazing houses on Lake Murray. That's for sure. There were some giant houses, and I'd find myself getting a little distracted while I'm fishing, just looking up, looking at all the houses because they're so big and beautiful. It was unreal. But yeah, my big thing the whole week was timing. I would fish, I probably had a dozen key points that I would fish, 3 or 4 times per day. I would rotate through those same spots, just waiting for the bass to pull up and get ready to feed. I would cover a lot of water. I'd fish a lot of other spots and, fish them once or twice, but I really had 10 or 12 that were really important and really key points that I made sure I hit. 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Are you seeing fish on live scope or when you're approaching these places like this, or are you just fishing the spots because you know the fish are there?
I was more so fishing them because I knew they were there. The bass in particular were so shallow where I was catching them that I couldn't actually see them on the live scope. I would see some herring around on the live scope out off the points, and then every once in a while I'd see some bass out there as well. But when I would see them on the live scope, there was no way I was able to catch them out that deep. So, I was using the electronics to find the bait fish. And if I seen a point that had a bunch of herring on it, I would definitely take a mental note of that and be sure to fish that spot again, because if there's food there, of course, there's going to be something there to eat it. Maybe not right this second, but they're going to find it eventually. So I just made a note of that and kept going back to those areas, waiting to see if the bass were on them yet.
It sounds like we're talking about kind of traditional staging spots for bass where they will come up and be in a spot before they move into spawn, and they'll come back kind of that same spot to be there on their way out. Is it what you're talking about, these kind of spots?
Yep, absolutely. A lot of these key points I had especially were, right at the mouth of a big spawning bay or something like that. So those fish that were working their way out from spawning were just stopping on these first points. And, it's probably the same points they use pre-spawn when they're heading in, just as you mentioned. And, I noticed the same thing with the herring, actually, that it seems like they were staging on, the little bit deeper water out off of the points, just waiting to slide up there to really start spawning. It was right on the leading edge of the herring spawn, and they didn't quite start spawning as good as, they're supposed to. So we were right on the leading edge of it. And I think a lot of them were just sitting out off the points, just kind of staging, waiting for the right weather or the right moon or something to slide up there and really get to spawning.
It sounds like a classic spring pattern. I mean, like you mentioned, everything kind of lining up in the right way. So by now the word is out. You fished a subsurface. Your baits were mainly subsurface. This was an event where a lot of the guys were throwing top water at fish they could see boiling. I'm kind of wondering what made you decide to back away, so to speak, from the top water, because I mean, we see fish boiling on the surface. It's hard not to throw top water at them. What made you decide to go subsurface with these fish?
Well, of course I tried it in practice, and all I really caught was stripers on an actual topwater bait. So that kind of steered me away from it a little bit, but also it was just, I wasn't getting bit on it. And then I, cycled behind myself and threw the soft plastic jerk bait, like the Guggen dart that I was throwing, and was able to get a couple bites with that. And it just kind of built from there. I have a lot of confidence in those type of baits. A soft plastic jerk bait's one of my favorite baits to fish. So I had a lot of confidence throwing that bait, and I knew the bass would eat it very well. So it was just a combination of that, not getting bit on the top water and just, knowing that the bass would definitely eat that soft plastic jerk bait, that I just decided to commit myself to that and just roll with it.
Well, I think for our people that are watching this, if you get a chance to watch any of Matt's tournament recaps, pay close attention to the bait he's throwing and the way he's throwing it, because I know for me, we're approaching that period of time in Southern California where I live, and I know those fish are going to be up on the surface boiling like crazy, and I know I'm going to want to throw top water in it, and I know I'm going to go home frustrated. So this is going to be something that I'm going to definitely take a look at myself. It seems to make a lot of sense.
Absolutely, and it definitely works all over the country, not just in a blueback herring. Like, if there's anything I'm a little disappointed about, it's about giving up my juice from this event. But hey, I'll take it for a trophy anytime.
Yeah, well, that's just kind of the way it is now.
Yep.
You got cameras in the boat. There's no way people aren't gonna know about it. So now, day 4, I turned it on to see how things are going, and man, Gagliardi is lighting up the leaderboard. I know you guys can't see it, but we could see it, and I'm like, oh man, what's going on with Matt? Day 4, it seemed like it started a little slow for you, or was it that way each day?
It was pretty much that way each day. The third morning, I caught a few fish early, but we had a little bit different weather. We had that big front rolling in, so I think it kind of triggered them to eat a little bit sooner than they had been. But yeah, I could definitely feel it out on the water. You just kind of have that feeling that something's not right. And there was no boats following me around. It was like a ghost town down where I was at. So I could kind of feel that something was happening, and somebody else was catching them pretty good. So I was starting to get a little worried, but I knew my main deal was from about 9:30 to 1 o'clock. That window is where I caught the bulk of my fish every single day. So I just had to keep calm and keep telling myself that, we just got to wait it out. We just got to wait till that sun gets up, and we're going to catch them. Everything's going to be just fine. But yeah, come about 10 o'clock when I had, I think, three fish in the live well, I was starting to hear the voices in my head a little bit. But I'm glad we got a few key bites there, and it really settled me down. And then it was just a good day from there.
Yeah, there was a stretch where on the live broadcast where I don't know if it was your first fish you got, but it was one of the first fish. You got it, put it in the well, and the next cast you hooked up and put another fish in, and it's like, okay, it's starting to happen for him.
Yep. Those were two bonus fish. They were before 9 o'clock, so I was really excited about that. Just to have those two fish that I could weigh in. Two quality fish before my window. So those two really calmed me down. If I hadn't caught those two, who knows what would have happened? I might have really been spinning out come 10 o'clock.
Does your global action camera give you the option to change lenses? Mine does. Tacticam's fisheye camera allows me to modify my viewing angle so I can film an extra wide or mini zoom. Tacticam fisheye, because that fish of a lifetime happens once in a lifetime. We're talking to Matt Becker. He is the champion of the Major League Fishing Pro Circuit event at Lake Murray. So you're currently in 15th in Major League Fishing Angler of the Year standings. This year, finishing in the top 10 is especially important, right?
Absolutely. That is definitely on the goal to get that Bass Pro Tour invite. They're going to take the top 10 from the pro circuit and invite them to the Bass Pro Tour. So yeah, we got some work cut out for us. We've been slowly climbing each event. I had a little stumble at Okeechobee, the first event of the year, and finished in the 70s. And then we've been working our way up ever since. So we got 3 more to go. And that is the goal, is to stay consistent and squeak into that top 10 somehow.
Now, if I did my math correctly, I think 4, 5, or 6 of those guys that are ahead of you are already on the Bass Tour, Bass Pro Tour, though. Would that allow you to skip over them if things were to end right now?
I'm not sure how that's going to work. Nobody really knows that for sure, but hopefully that works out. And if that's the case, we're in right now. But yeah, regardless, I'm going to leave all that out of the question and just try and finish in the top 10 or even the top 5 and just solidify it,
Absolutely. You got to take care of what you can take care of. Now, let me ask you this. Does this win put you in the driver's seat to make stage 4 of this year's Bass Pro Tour? I'm a little fuzzy on how they select those. I know we got Miles Burkhardt is fishing in one of those stage 2 right now, but they were talking on the live broadcast about top 4 qualifying for stage 4. Does that put you in that now?
It does. That got me a qualification to Lake Chickamauga for stage 4 in the first week of June.
Outstanding. Well, that's exciting. One more thing to watch Matt on TV for.
Yeah. Another tournament I get to fish. I love fishing tournaments, so I'm looking forward to that. But the only bad thing about it's on Lake Chickamauga, and Lake Chickamauga has been my nemesis over the last 4 years. So I got a little monkey on my back about that one, and we're going to try and get some revenge on Lake Chickamauga.
Excellent. Well, Matt, what is in the immediate future for you? What's the next event?
Well, I got about another week or so off, and then next event is Lake Eufaula for the pro circuit on middle of May, I believe is the dates on that one. But I'm gonna be heading out here early next week and do a little bit of fishing. Got a graduation to go to, and then we're gonna head on down to Alabama and start getting ready for the next event. You got to put all this this wind behind you pretty quick and just kind of forget it happened and start focusing on eufaula, it's going to be completely different type of fishing. So got to, cut off all those lures that worked last week and tie on all new stuff and start fresh.
Let me ask you this one more question here, because I have no idea what this feels like. What is it like to walk into a bank with a check for $100,000 to deposit? I mean,
you get some funny looks for sure. They think you're coming in with something that's fake. You're trying to scam you or something. I got some looks and I got shook down a little bit, but really, once they they believed me that it was legit, it just went in like any other check, like it was $5.
They're probably your best friends after that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They've called a few times. They're trying to get some of it.
Well, Matt, thanks for being with us today. I know you've been on a lot of shows this week, and congratulations, and we'll keep a close eye on how you're doing. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. And anytime you're looking to talk fishing, I talked to you right before the Lake Murray event, so you might be good luck. I might have to talk to you before every tournament.
You know what? The invitation's always there.
We'll see how Lake Eufaula goes, and then I'll get back with you.
All right. That sounds like a
deal. Appreciate you. Yeah, definitely. You guys have a good one.
All right. Thank you.
See you.
Bye. Wardrobe for the Bass Tour Anglers podcast is provided by Koppel Outfitters. Go have an adventure. Visit them online at www.koppeloutfitters.com and on social media at Koppel Outfitters.